Welcome in to another episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast, presented by the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. I'm your host, the real _ G Warner, and I have at Big East Ben, fresh off his Mexico Beach vacation. Unfortunately, we missed an episode, but we're back for the rest of the season, and we're actually scheduling how we're going to record our Final Four podcast live on the floor at the stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Big East Ben, how's married life? How was the beach? You sound a little sick today.
Yeah, I'm a bit under the weather, still recovering. Had a great weekend. Hope people checked out the uh, inebriated episode 2 weeks ago. I think that was our best P&L of the season. But good, feeling good. Ready with this newfound monogamy to focus on the two things most important in my life. Number one, my wife's happiness and love. And number two, picking winners for the remainder of this college basketball slate.
Good. I'm glad we're motivated. I'm glad your newfound monogamy is coming in. I was hoping that was found a few years ago, but what's said has been said. Uh, and let's get right into it. So we're going to go through a bunch of college basketball games. We are actually doing this far earlier than normal. So we are using lines, a mixture of FanDuel and DraftKings. Since they are bettable, we consider them real. And what's going to be interesting is, I guess it's almost like an opener prep for those of you that have accounts at Sportsbetting.ag or at BetOnline, basically sister sites that have the same lines that come out, usually open the marketplace. If you're not a member there yet, we have links in the podcast descriptions on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, which should give you a 50% bonus at BetOnline or a 100% match to your first deposit up to $500 at sportsbetting.ag. So that's what we're essentially doing today, is prepping you for what numbers will be coming out, as we still don't have them yet at BetOnline, but they are live numbers. Ben has already bet all of them. So we're in a position to start in the Big East with Creighton, a 1.5 point underdog at Xavier, which I had Xavier this middle of the week, home game against Villanova, and I think Ben did as well. Incredible. I mean, pushes to me are just fine. I don't mind them. They're not gonna break the bank. They're not gonna help the bank. And honestly, considering Villanova had a shot with well, they should have had a shot with a few seconds left and didn't get one off. Do you credit that to the Xavier defense, or do you credit that to Kyle Neptune probably should be shipped off to Neptune?
Neptune ineptitude, as I would call it. That was a great play, right? I think they had like three handoffs about 35 feet from the basket. And
They tried an elevator screen for Brendan Housen, who had been shooting really well that game, but is a name that I don't think anyone thought was going to be important in that rotation this year. Seems like he's only got to shoot 3-pointers, and then he didn't seem to want to shoot over Abu Osman, who's 6'10" and long, so I can understand that, the North Texas transfer. But then his pass to Mikey Dixon didn't really work very well, and then things didn't go well from there. I'll put it that way. So what do we think, though? Creighton went on the road to Providence midweek. Providence basically sent Josh Oduro at Kalkbrenner for the first, what seemed like 5 minutes. Just, all right, go see if you can score on the one guy that can defend the entire team. And I don't know if that was a great solution, but Oduro had a really good first half. What do you think about Creighton going on the road to Xavier, a 1.5 point underdog? Feels like it's a very nice price for a Creighton team that was picked, I think, to be the Big East champion. I think they were, I mean, certainly within the top three entering the season. UConn has seemingly pulled away, and Creighton's kind of sitting in the middle of the Big East right now at Big East Ben.
pretty impressed by Creighton's performance on the road at a hostile environment and the Dunkin' Donuts Center, as we all know. I mean, that was an incredible performance by Carter at the end there in the overtime, hitting the three from the logo, and basically doing it all. Xavier, less so impressed by the performance versus Nova. Again, we talked about Neptune's brain cramp at the end, but again, I'm going to back the more talented team here. Creighton really can't afford to lose three in a row. They're going to be motivated. They're at risk of falling now out of range for a first round bye in the Big East tournament. Shireman's playing at a Big East Player of the Year level. Ashworth has really come on strong as of late. He was a big bugaboo at the beginning of the season. Fans really complaining about, below expected production from him, but he's averaging over 20 in his last 30 games. I think this is going to be a big Hawk runner game. I think he's will excel inside against the X defense. And we all know that Creighton does an extremely good job of running teams off the 3-point line. Xavier, one of the most inefficient teams in terms of 2-point field goals. Again, desperation time for the Jays here. I'm going to back the road dog.
So it's interesting to me that you point to Creighton running people off the 3-point line because Xavier doesn't really want to shoot threes. I mean, I don't know if it was fatigue or really what happened to them in the Villanova game, but Xavier was up ahead, pulling away. It looked like it might not even be a contest because every rebound they pulled, they ran as fast as they could down the floor to try to get points in transition. It then opened up 3-point shots, which I mean, Desmond Claude, I think in the 20% range right now, in the 20s. He needs as many open shots as possible to try to get that number up. Olivari's been really good, and then I feel like they have more. I mean, I don't know. Point guard really has done much for them offensively, but maybe that's something that comes a little bit later. But my question really is, how do you think Creighton handles the pace that Xavier's going to throw at them? Or is it even something that Xavier is unable to really kind of maintain that pace like they weren't really able to do? Because they pretty much played in Villanova's hands going slow down the later stages of that game on Tuesday or Wednesday night, whichever day it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Jays will be able to run with them. Again, at Xavier, it's just again great coach team. It's just the talent's not there. I mean, we talked about it multiple times. Losing Fremantle, losing Hunter. Have you heard about Hunter? I think the torn ACL right after he was cleared. That was tough news to stomach. Shout out
Yeah,
to that.
I think Achilles, but one of the two bad things that happened that keeps you out for a while. But yeah, and I think he's done an ACL before when he was at Indiana. I mean, probably he's going to go on like maybe the longest college. Van Wilders thinks he's been in college a long time at this point. But I'm going to go with the home team here. I'll take Xavier -1.5. So we already have
Quick,
one disagreement.
quick comment. Do you have any thoughts on the recent McDermott to Ohio State rumors that are circulating around Twitter?
Well, I do wonder if he's learned not to make racial comments in the locker room after games. I guess, I mean, why not reward a guy that has been fairly, I mean, Creighton's been competitive in the NCAA tournament for years. I'd not heard those rumors before now. Ohio State, I mean, does seem like they are a bit of a dumpster fire, but this has happened every year with Chris Holtmann since he's been there. So I don't know why now is the time, but maybe they've finally given up or something of that nature. Maybe football is not distracting as much this past year because they didn't make the playoff. But McDermott, I mean, while he's done well with Creighton, I feel like he's gotten a lot of credit and respect for close losses in the NCAA tournament, not so much wins. And I feel like last year they did a really poor job with a good team of. They should have gone a lot further than they ended up going. I think
Elite
lost.
Eight,
I
one
think
position from the Final Four.
well, I mean, they were ahead of San Diego State, I think, and fouled at the end of the clock, and that was a game they were favored, and I think we're supposed to keep winning. I mean, maybe the chips all fell in that sort of way, and that was nice, but I feel like they had a very easy run, very easy bracket. I'm not sure that Greg McDermott is. I mean, certainly for more money and a bigger conference, I guess that. Sorry, Big East Ben, for saying that, but I can see him taking that job. And there's the distractions of football, which certainly helps you stick around a lot longer. In the case of Chris Holtmann, I guess it makes sense. I don't know where Ohio State's going to go. I also don't know where Texas is going to go for its next head coach, but we'll see about that too. We'll move next, unless you got another comment you'd like to make.
Let's move.
Okay, we'll move to Illinois visiting Michigan State. Michigan State coming off I mean, stop me if you've heard this movie or seen this movie before, but it seems like every time Minnesota plays a game, they fall behind, they make a run at the end of the first half, then they look pretty gross in the middle of the second half, and then come back and win at the end. Well, same sort of story happened at Michigan State this weekend or this midweek. This is a weekend show, my bad. But Michigan State now gets to bounce back. They're hosting Illinois, who have been climbing up the Big Ten list, basically. Have now taken that second place spot away from Wisconsin. Wisconsin was initially in first, ahead of Purdue even. But now Illinois, I mean, for me, they've been a tough team for me to predict so far this season. What do you think about this game?
So the narrative on Michigan State can't shoot threes has been dispelled. I mean, they're shooting over 40% in Big Ten play. So Izzo's got his guys in the right order there. I'm still not completely sold on this Illinois team. I know they have the three-headed monster of the Mask, Hawkins, and Shannon. But it's just again, this might be just still bias of me remembering the game when Marquette went into Champaign and handled them pretty easily. But with this game being in East Lansing, I think if the Spartans take care of the ball, which they have been doing well of late, the 3-point shooting continues. Yeah, just Big Ten. I like the home team within a possession here.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to really go away from what you're saying either. I mean, looking at Michigan State 3-point shooters, I mean, it feels a lot like Tyson Walker, but he's actually shooting worse than Jaden Akins, who's made 3 more out of 6 more attempts this season, shooting 39% almost. And Trey Holloman, also, I think more of a bench player, playing sub 50% of minutes. He's at 42%, though he's only made 24 3-point shots this year in 23 games. So not a lot of expectations there, maybe. I've been really impressed. I mean, what to me, Michigan State, what sets them apart from a lot of this country is that they push the pace. I mean, I guess similar to Xavier as well. They run every time they can, no matter if it's a make, miss, or anything like that. They are running and trying to set themselves up for as many open shots as possible. I think that's going to be tough for Illinois, though Illinois has done pretty well with not turning the ball over much, and I feel like they really use their point forward, you could call him, in Coleman Hawkins. He's going to be a tough matchup. But I feel like ultimately that's going to be a tough situation for them going on the road to East Lansing when Michigan State definitely needs a victory. And we've seen the strength of the Big Ten and their home court. So I'll go Michigan State there with you as well. Next, we'll move to Auburn visiting Florida. We got Florida 2-point underdog. What do you got in this SEC matchup where it just means more?
Uh, so Florida needs this one. I know they had the win over Kentucky, but they are still 1-7 in quad one games. Florida is a strong offensive rebounding team. They have been taking care of the ball better of late. It comes down to I still think this Auburn team is completely overrated due to their strength of schedule. You know, only 2 quad one wins for a team that's number 4 in KenPom, which is surprising. They did have a good win at Ole Miss, which I think me and you were both on the Rebels in that one.
Yay.
Uh,
Thank you for the memories.
Yeah, but I mean, watching that game, like Ole Miss, just one of the worst shot selection games I've ever seen. Um, I
Welcome to
think,
Ole Miss, baby. That's what they do.
I think, yeah, shout out Marshall Henderson. Um, Auburn just blew out their hated rival Alabama on Wednesday. I think this is a letdown spot for a desperate Gators team to improve their seeding. I'm going to go with Chomp Chomp.
Chomp. Chomp. I'll go there as well. Move next to the Tennessee Fighting Volunteers. They're on the road at Texas A&M. A&M a 4-point underdog in another SEC contest. Tennessee looked pretty impressive. Shot the ball really well at Kentucky. I was not expecting that one, to put it that way, though. Might mean, I mean, if Tennessee shoots well, they're going to win games. So that's the big question here. A&M, they live on offensive rebounds. Probably hard to get against a really big, rugged Tennessee front line. What do you think about Go Coach Buzz? And do you think he'll be doing a two-step at the end of this game?
I do. I do. Last time Texas A&M lost at home in the month of February and March was over 2 years ago. Buzz has a really good track record of getting his guys together to make a run at the end of the season. The one kind of like weak link in the Tennessee defense is actually rebounding. They're not a great defensive rebound team, given how good they are in all of their facets of on the defensive end of the floor. Like you said, Texas A&M, #1 offensive rebounding team in the country. Uh, their offensive metrics are just disgusting when it comes to 3-point and 2-point efficiencies, like 350th in the country. But again, I like this is going to be a great point guard battle between Ziegler and Walker. I think Texas A&M has some guys they can throw out, connect, and slow them down, namely Radford and Coleman. Um, So yeah, it's going to be a crazy atmosphere in College Station. I was thinking about that Kentucky overtime win, probably like 4 weeks ago. I like Buzz at home here. Buzz in the Aggies.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to throw Radford or Coleman at Dalton Connect, but I do feel like Solomon Washington, who's one of the most freakish athletes out there, I feel like he can jump and grab the quarters off the top of the backboard that Ben and I were initially putting there on a big ladder. And I feel like it's one of those where Tennessee's really hard to fade at this point, especially when they have performances like that. But I think I'm with you. I mean, surprise, surprise, if you listen to this podcast or any college basketball podcast, I do. I am into home teams. It's kind of my new thing in this world. I don't know if it's a actually I probably should not go any further in that direction, but it's just one of those where A&M maybe the strategy, but Coach Buzz was like, hey, none of us can shoot, so let's just crash the glass and use our missed shots or inability to actually put the ball in the basket as a weapon. And it just seems to me like a bunch of other teams would have figured out how to stop it by now. But if they haven't, I'm not sure that Tennessee, as you mentioned, with their maybe one Achilles heel being defensive rebounding, that I'll go A&M +4 with you as well. We'll go next to TCU, a 7-point touchdown underdog on the road at Iowa State. Feels like a pretty big price for a Big 12 underdog, but we've seen some blowouts in that conference, despite it being lauded as the #1 conference in the country with the closest games, et cetera, et cetera. TCU, I mean, had an incredible meltdown against Texas, but I'm very thankful for them to give Texas another potential resume boosting win. Iowa State on the other side, they play really tight games. They won at Texas this midweek. Were incredible defensively. Texas, I don't know, maybe helped them out by not making a three for the first 30 minutes of the game, I think. But Iowa State, I mean, credit them. I don't really know how they do it. Taman Lipsey, their point guard, not really that talented of an offensive player, but seems to know exactly what he's doing and fits in the slots. Doesn't have great stats, but is really dynamic. A Ames, Iowa local product, and I feel like the Iowa State defense is really tough. Plus, they got that Hilton Magic behind them.
Yeah, I mean, what stood out to me on this one was too many points. I think seven's too many points. TCU has shown toughness on the road. They beat Baylor down in Waco. Also had close losses to Kansas and Cincinnati. We all know they were totally jobbed at the end of that Kansas game. Like you said, Iowa State, it seems like every single game is a tight game. Even when they went nuclear second half from three versus Kansas, it still ended up having Kansas a backdoor cover. Um, the Frogs, they've won two of the last three up in Hilton. I think they keep this one close. I think this team is too gritty to and too undervalued at this point to not take the seven.
And at the end of games, they're really good at hitting 3-point shots with no time left remaining. The wedding fund! The wedding fund! Or just literally hearing an entire crowd last game of the NCAA tournament night. Ben and I were in attendance at the Ball Arena. Don't call it the Coors Pepsi Event Center or whatever it was called. Pepsi. Don't call it the Pepsi Center. Call it the Ball Arena, like it's actually a nice glass. I don't even know, mason jar, I guess, company.
Yeah, glass. They actually have an aerospace division that they recently divested.
Oh, divested. I was gonna say I didn't know if they're gonna be part of the Space Force soon as well, but I guess here we go. And we'll move now to, I guess, before we get to best bets, because that's what everyone's been sticking around here. If you're not following us on Twitter, I'm at the real _G Warner. We got at Biggie Spen. We got plenty of episodes coming out. We might even add some coming up later in the season because it's go time. We're trying to make as much money as possible and then coast through the conference tournament season where there's literally going to be games on every second of every day, it feels like. Looking forward to that. Let's see, what else do we have to, if you're not a member yet of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/the_G Warner, best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across all sports, which if you don't want to just follow me on Twitter and see everything coming through as it goes, good way to get ready, prepare for the next day ahead of you. Also got a new sponsor. If you use the promo code GW at shotqualitybets.com, good spot to get new data if you're interested and to try to data mining a little bit more about the action you're putting on there out there as well. You get a 10% discount code if you use that promo code GW. So throw that in there and go spin your wheels in some data land. I know Ben is a big data monger himself, so I feel like he's probably into that as well. Other than that, that, I think it's time for Big East Ben. By the way, if you love us and you want us to keep doing these episodes, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or subscribe on YouTube. Any comments, likes, and things of that nature. And if they're specific to the College Basketball Need for Seats podcast, I'll have Big East Ben read them in a soliloquy type of voice. So give it to you, Ben. It's time for Big East best bet, or maybe not Big East, but figure out where you want to go.
Yeah, first of all, I apologize if my sound is off. I know it's been off throughout the history of the show. Bought a brand new microphone for the show, and it's not working. So I will try to be better next week. I apologize.
Yeah, and he can't apologize for his nasally sickness at the moment. So really, thank you, listener, for suffering through not only the nonsense that comes out of at Big East Ben, but especially the audio quality issues with the nonsense.
My best bet, the Buffaloes, Colorado Buffaloes -1 at home against Arizona. Arizona just last night played an absolute grueling 3 overtime game against Utah that they pulled out. I think a 6-point win. Hey, how about 48 hours later and we'll add 600 feet of elevation for your next matchup? This is going to be a Colorado team that is going to be extremely motivated, especially getting blown out by 30 in Tucson earlier this season, where they were missing two of their starters, De Silva and Cody Williams, who's going to be a lottery pick. This Arizona team isn't going to know what hit them with this Colorado team at full strength, especially now they're going to have tired legs. Pele Larson and Caleb Love are not going to repeat that performance they had in Salt Lake last night. They're two of the streakiest players in the nation. Even in the blowout, Eddie Lampkin was able to contain Ballo, holding him to 1 of 7 shooting. I think that advantage holds. Lampkin is a beast. Probably the only guy, maybe in Division I, that can match up with Ballo strength-wise. The stadium Boulder will be rocking. The reason I know that is because I bought 2 of the last probably 10 tickets available the other day and will be in attendance.
Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Do you know what color you're supposed to wear?
I don't know if that's a theme game, but I got a golf shirt. I'm
I mean, come on. If it's the biggest game of the entire college basketball season, they played on the road at Colorado State this year. They've got to have a blackout, whiteout, gold out, whatever it's called. Maybe no shirts for anybody in February type of event. So while you look that up, it's got to be something. I'm a big believer. Whenever there's a whiteout, blackout, whatever they're calling it at any sort of school, that is the team you want to back. Those are special nights. That gets the butts in the chairs or maybe bleachers. I'm not sure. I have not been to the Rocky Mountain Coors Event Center or whatever it's called on the campus of the Colorado Buffaloes. Do you have an answer for me? It looks like you do in your eyes.
Well, no, just the UAB game was blackout last night against Florida Atlantic, and the Blazers took it. So I'm a big believer in that as well.
There we are. Thank you. I love when you can add some evidence. Now, one thing I feel like Zach Edey might feel a little bit slighted by saying Eddie Lampkin's the only center in all of college basketball can match up with Oumar Ballo, but I guess we only saw that happen once this year. So I guess we got a big Eddie Lampkin fan in at Big East Ben. Just put that down for maybe you should buy it. Give him some NIL sponsorship. Get an Eddie Lampkin jersey, considering you're already shouting his name from the mountaintops. High in the Rockies, have you ever been so high off the ground you just can't find your way down? That is exactly what we're looking for. I actually was close to backing Colorado myself for my best bet, but at Big East Ben is chuckling over there. Why are you chuckling?
You're just going off. I was wondering how long you were going to go for.
Well, I got to set up because unfortunately, I'm tempted to go with a double best bet, but after watching Jack from the corner drop in a double best bet loser on our last episode, I think I'll leave you to it. I do like Colorado myself. I was hoping they'd be an underdog. I think -1 feels like a number that's going to change. I mean, I think it opened -1.5 or down to 1. I would imagine Arizona money's coming in because I didn't expect them to be an underdog on the road. It's rare for Arizona to be dogs. I would say probably you're playing this until Colorado -3, depending on where this number goes. But where do you think this one ends up?
Pick them. It opened at 1.5. It's down to 1. Again, you're gonna have the dumb money come in and see the number 6 next to Arizona and be like, what the hell's going on?
Ooh, Caleb Love. I remember him from the NCAA Tournament Championship Final. He won a title, didn't he, Davis Rand?
Close.
Yeah, close. Close, but no cigar. For my best bet, I'm gonna go with one of the games we already talked about earlier, actually. It's nice because we have lines for that one. I'm gonna go with the Florida Gators, a 1.5 point underdog at home against Auburn. I also don't think I mentioned that I'll take TCU with you. I know it's shocking to take a road team, but I want to make sure I got my pick in before the podcast ended. So you just heard it. This is Betting the Pitch presents the Need for Seeds College Basketball Edition. You just heard at Big East Ben, he gave you Colorado a 1 point favorite at home against Arizona as his best bet. I'm going to stay with another home team as surprise, surprise. I like the home cooking. I'm going Florida 2 point underdog at home against Florida, excuse me, at home against Auburn. They to me are in a dire position. If you listen to the rest of our podcast, Ben laid it out pretty well. 1-7 in quad one games. They need to win very badly. And I think Auburn is one of those teams that's played really well at home this year, but has left a lot of room to be upset. They've lost some bad games at Mississippi State, should have lost probably at Ole Miss. And I feel like Auburn's style and really in general, their strategy doesn't work very well for road games. So take Florida +2 and take Colorado -1 from Big East Ben for his best bet. And join us next weekend for the next episode of the Need for Seeds podcast. And that'll do it for this episode. Just quoted or got whatever I need to do to get it out in the reels. I'm going to remember to do that, hopefully. Do you got anything you want to say? A new married man, you can tell to all us single gentlemen out there.
I'm married to the game.
And that'll do it. Thank you for joining us on the Need for Seeds podcast. We'll see you all very soon.